What's up, everyone? And I know the setup looks a little bit different, but it's all I got right now. Unfortunately, I can't really do much about it. Hopefully, I can get a more permanent setting thing kind of set up down the road. But I figured today we do something that I normally don't do on this channel because usually I focus on deck profiles. But one thing I wanted to start doing is being like maybe a little more interactive, as well as doing different types of content, like maybe first impressions or unboxings. I tried unboxings and they haven't done too well, even when I buy like 5 tins. But that's irrelevant. Today I will be reacting to the new Abhyss archetype. I don't know if you can hear some like noise from like another room. That I can do that. About that. Here we have the new Abhyss archetype, and the artwork for it looks pretty good. Now I'm really excited for this archetype. Main reason why is this finally going to be the good reptile archetype, or is this going to be like the rest of the trash reptile archetypes? Like for reptile archetypes, you have Reptiliania, Worm, Alien. That's kind of really about it. Yeah, reptile. It's kind of gotten the kind of like the rock treatment before Adamantipator. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, like, could this be kind of like the reptile archetype that finally pushes the reptile type into, like, high competitive tiers? Maybe see all types of reptile support is actually pretty good. Like, with Adamantipator, before rock was terrible, there wasn't any good rock archetypes. Then we get a good rock archetype, and like, yeah, now we see how good Block Dragon is. I'm hoping it's the same with Abhyss, although I did look up a few reptile cards like beforehand, and I did notice some things that could be some problems. I noticed a certain reptile card that, how should I put it? Oh, it auto wins you the duel. Yeah. And I don't think it's a prize card too either, because it's been printed in multiple sets. But that's definitely something I'm going to look into. But enough of my talking about random stuff. Well, I wouldn't call it random, but into the video. After a sip of water. First, we have Null Dreg of the Abhyss. It's a light reptile effect. Level 4. 0 attack, 0 defense. Interesting. You can only use this card's first and second effects once per turn. First, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to send a dark reptile monster from deck to grave. That's pretty good. It's a full sparrow for dark reptiles. For one, I'm thinking that the Abhyss archetype is like half light, half dark. So that could also have some Chaos Dragon, Chaos kind of synergy. We don't know. But that is interesting. And the second effect, it controls no monsters, or you control an Abhyss monster. You can special summon this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. You cannot special summon monsters while this card is special summoned by this effect in the monster zone, except reptile monsters. Okay. So this card is pretty good. It's looking like this one's the starter. I don't know if you'll be like playing other cards besides Abhyss. But the fact that it can special summon itself and discard itself to extend, like, already we're starting out pretty good. Next we got Nihil Dreg of the Abhyss. Dark reptile. Level 4, 0 attack, and 2,000 defense. You can only discard names first, second effects once per turn. First, You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to send one light reptile monster from your deck to the grave. So this is like the opposite of Null. And if this card is no more special summon, you can add Abhyss spell trap from deck to hand. So that's pretty good. It looks like these two are going to be like the starter ones that kind of like lead you into combos and stuff. Starting off pretty good. You can only use this card name. Oh, wait a second. Fulgi, Haze of the Abyss. Okay. Light Reptile. Level 4, 18, 14, attack defense. You can only use each effect once per turn. If this card is sent from field to grave, special summon it from... or blah. If this card is sent from the field to the grave or special summoned from the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and one monster in the graveyard with an equal or higher attack. Special summon the target and the opponent's grave to the field. And if you do, send that target they control to the grave. I don't like that. There might be certain situations where that may be good, but that's very kind of depending on what you're going against. Let's see, the second effect is if this card is in your graveyard, you can send one card from your hand to the grave, add this card to the hand. Not sure on that one. Next we got Zoha, Haze of the Abyss. You can only use each effect once per turn. It's a dark reptile effect. Level 4, 1500 attack, 17 defense. This card sent from field to grave or special summon from the grave. You can have your opponent draw one card, and if they do, you can add one Abhyss monster from deck to hand. Then each player sends one card from hand to grave. I don't like that my opponent is drawing a card. That's one that's going to have to be kind of a test to see. This is kind of like a risk versus reward, because your opponent drawing cards, that's never good in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd rather say like they gain 1,000 or 2,000 life points. That'd be better. But drawing, I'm not sure how I feel about that. And the fact that they can discard one too, so that's a bit iffy. Although, second effect is if this card is in your graveyard, you can send a card from hand to grave, add this card to your hand. Now, if there's a I don't know, I'd have to see the rest of it to kind of like, but I don't like those two. Next we have Curse, Dawn of the Abyss. It's a light reptile effect, level 8, 400 attack, 2400 defense. You can only use each effect once per turn. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one monster, special summon this card, then your opponent can special summon one monster from the graveyard to the field, but its effects are negated. I guess that's a little bit better because it does negate their effects. Like if you do this during your turn, you can just like attack over or something like that. So it's not quite as bad, but I'm starting to be kind of confused as the cost. And if this card is special summoned, you can target one over 4 or lower Abhyss monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. Okay, that one might actually be worth it because you can use each of them. So what you do, you tribute one monster. Like one thing I noticed is like this just says tribute one monster. Like it doesn't say tribute one monster you control. So I don't know how the ruling will be with that, but it might be to where you contribute one monster your opponent controls. And if so, then that's not really a downside because then you can special summon one. They special summon one from the grave, but its effects are negated. So they special summon one, but they can't do anything with it. But then you get to the special level 4 from grave. Next we got Aleph, Dusk of the Abyss. You can only use this card. It's a dark reptile effect, level 8, 2000 attack, 800 defense. Use each effect per turn. If this card is in your graveyard, tribute one monster, special summon this card, then you're going to add one monster from their graveyard to their hand. If this card is special summon, target 2 of your banished monsters, including at least one reptile monster, return them to the grave. I have some questions about this archetype. like, I'm not sure if this is designed to be intentionally bad, or if there's some, like, a sort of reward for all this. Now, if it's intentionally designed to be bad, then, why? But it's interesting. Let's see, next we got Aaron, King of the Abhyss. Probably pronounced Aron, but that's just what I'm going to call it. You can use this. You can use each effect once per turn. It's a light reptile, level A 25, 28. If this card is in your graveyard, contribute 2 monsters. Special summon this card. If your opponent adds a card to their hand, you can send, except during draw phase, you can send 1 random card from their hand to the grave. Okay. I think I'm starting a bit to piece this together now. The third one is if your monster your opponent controls is sent to the grave by a card effect, you can add 1 light or dark reptile monster from your deck or hand to your graveyard. Okay, now I think I'm starting to get it. Essentially, like you're having them like add stuff to the hand, special stuff, just to become fodder for King of the Abhyss, the Aron King of the Abhyss. So that's just like my current guess right now. Next, I have Amnesia, Queen of the Abhyss, level A 27-21. You can use each effect per turn. If this card is in the graveyard, tribute 2 monsters, special summon this card. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, you can send 1 card they control to the grave. And if a monster is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the grave, special summon 1 light or dark reptile monster from your grave. Okay. I think you do all that, like, adding mainly just for the king and queen. Okay. I can definitely see a way where that can work. Because there is a 1 reptile monster. Is it a dark? No, it is a dark. Or it's a light or dark. But it's one of the Venom cards that we can actually use in this. Next we got Abhyss, Deity of the Abyss. This one's a level 10, 31, 22. You can use each effect once per turn. This card is in your graveyard, tribute 3 monsters, special summon this card. Once, while face up on the field, quick effect, you can send all monsters on the field to the grave, except face up monsters that will special summon from the grave. Oh, okay, now I'm getting it. This is the boss monster. So essentially, what you want to do is leave with this on field, because most of the Abyss monsters special summon themselves from the grave. And then you can use this one's quick effect, like during the end phase of your turn, or during main phase 2, or whatever, to kind of like, well, you won't exactly nuke their board, but let's say they special summon from the extra deck, you can just flat out get rid of it. So, not bad. Let's see, here's the field spell. Depths of the Abyss. Use each effect once per turn. Face up reptile monster you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect. Target 1 card your opponent controls, send it to the grave. That's pretty good. That's actually really good protection. That is a good field spell. It's kind of like, reminds me of like the Crawler's field spell, is like when they're destroyed by battle or card effect. You can send 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard. Not destroy, send. So that works around a lot of stuff. It's like kind of like a loophole around destruction removal, because it's not destroying it, it's sending it. And if this card in your field zone is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you can send cards from the top of your opponent's deck to the graveyard equal to the number of reptile monsters with different names in your graveyard. Oh boy. That's good. This field spell is definitely good. Like, sure, they're sending cards, they're like excavating, but for some decks, that's not exactly a good thing. Like, some decks love to excavate, but like combo decks, oof. Like, this doesn't really hurt a control deck much, but it definitely can hurt a combo deck. And depending on how many reptile monsters, let's say you have 10 reptile monsters in the grave, that's 10 cards sent to the grave. Now, Some decks, they might actually like that. However, there are ways around it through cards like Soul Drain. Oh, maybe not Soul Drain because that also affects you, but like Abhyss Dweller. That could actually work. Because you do have level 4s in this deck. Next, we have Emptiness of the Abyss. It's a continuous trap. You can only use the first effect once per turn. So the second one is, I guess, as many times as you want. During the main phase, tribute one reptile monster, then target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but send it to the grave during the end phase. Okay, now that's good. So essentially, you revive a monster from your opponent's graveyard. It's kind of like a Monster Reborn, but you just gotta tribute a reptile monster, which is not the biggest downside. And if this face-up card in the spell and trap zone is sent to the graveyard, send all face-up non-reptile monsters you control to the grave. Not really much of a downside. Next we got Invasion of the Abyss, normal trap. You can activate one card with this card's... You can only activate one card with this card's name once per turn, so you can only activate this card once per turn. Special summon 2 Abhyss tokens. If you have 8 or more Abhyss monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can apply this effect instead. Special summon 2 reptile monsters with different names from your grave. Ooh. I can see why that card's on once per turn. You can use tokens to start generating advantage, or the special summon 2 reptiles monsters from grave. So you can special summon the boss monster if it's sent to the grave. So that's pretty good. The one thing, it is a trap, so you do have to wait to activate it. And then there's Snake's Reign. Okay, so that's it for the Abhyss Archetype. This one I'm not quite sure. Is it good or is it bad? I think this one's a bit more of a gamble deck. Although, there are a few cards that probably can really help, because there is good ritual support, just as you see from right here. Snake Rain, which is a good card. And a few other good reptile cards, but we'll just have to see on that one. So, what do you think about this deck? Do you think it's a pretty cool deck? Do you think it's going to be a competitive deck? Do you think it's going to be relevant? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video I make.